I think most Americans would say that things are a lot better than they were at the height of the pandemic. But I think there's still some major issues that we all need to be aware of. So in this video, I'm going to go and discuss the top 10 issues facing our country today, and also discuss some of the solutions to fix those issues. Let's begin, shall we? Probably the most important issue facing humanity today is climate change. If you've been anywhere on Earth recently, you've heard of either the heat waves or the wildfires or the floods that have impacted millions of people throughout the world. And if you happen to be one of those people that have been impacted, our thoughts and prayers go out to you and your family. We can change the dynamic of climate change by simply cutting down on emissions of things like carbon dioxide, things like methane. We need to vote and otherwise support candidates who believe in those changes. If we don't do anything, it's only going to get worse. The second most important issue facing America today, I believe, is economic inequality. If you've watched my other videos, including my short on concentrated wealth and the problems that causes, I think you'll realize that most people don't have a lot of economic mobility in America. For many people, the American dream is dead. And again, public housing is necessary, affordable housing is necessary, and I do think the government needs to go and do things more for housing. I think the government needs to take advantage more of eminent domain and turn a dilapidated property into housing and apartment complexes. Most Americans do not get out of their economic class. Every American, every human deserves a safe place to live. According to an article, and I'll link it below in my description, by the Brookings Institution, that we have less economic mobility in America than most other industrialized countries. That's a problem, and it's only going to get worse unless we go and do things like overturn Citizens United, overturn big money in politics, limit the power of political action committees, limit big donations, limit corporate donations to candidates. These are the things that progressive and liberal and democratic socialist candidates and senators and representatives have been asking for decades. Just look at Bernie Sanders or AOC. We're never going to have a fair and just country until we have a fair and just government. And it takes us the momentum to actually vote for candidates who support the middle class, the lower class, people who aren't rich. We need some kind of redistribution. We need to stop lowering taxes on the ultra-rich. Reagan's dream of trickle-down economics, if he actually ever believed it in the first place. Personally, I think it was just a marketing technique and justification to lower taxes for the rich. But look at what kind of damage this has done to America since the 80s. Economic inequality is an issue for all Americans, but primarily those that are the least advantaged and minorities in this country. And that issue really needs to be dealt with. The fourth major issue in this country related to that is racial injustice. We recently celebrated the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington, D.C. And a lot of the gains that were made back in the 1960s are being washed away. If you are a minority in this country, you probably face more intolerance, more hatred. You probably have a harder time voting. You probably have a harder time making ends meet. You probably have a lot more fear and anxiety and tension in your life than you probably have, in some cases, in your whole life. With the ubiquity of gun violence in America, you see more hate groups and people espousing racism and hate, killing our fellow citizens. I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I remember the shooting at Tree of Life Synagogue. And nearly every week, there's something akin to that, some kind of shooting. Just most recently at the Dollar General in Florida. We need to realize as a people that we're all the same. Our DNA is 99.9% the same. We're all related. We all came from Africa. We're all one race. We're all humans. We're all the same species. And we have to do whatever we can to help people who are suffering from racial and economic injustice. An injury to one is an injury to all. The next issue, and again, a lot of these are related, is the political polarization in America. We need to really think as individuals and as a society of what's important to us. Who is important to us? Our friends, our family, our neighbors, our community, our country. We need to be able to reach across the aisle and talk to people who might not agree with us, but are willing to have a civil discourse. There are so many more things we have in common than things that separate us. We need to go and find those people. And we need to go and vote for representatives that believe in our vision, believe in a more common, more just, and more equitable world for everybody. We also have to go and stop things like voter disenfranchisement. We have to stop voter suppression. We have to stop gerrymandering. And as a country, it's time we get rid of the Electoral College. There have been at least 3 times, to my knowledge, of when the person who won the popular vote in America didn't become president. If we're truly a just democracy, we need to abolish the Electoral College. Number 6 is healthcare access. Majority of Americans want healthcare for all. Whether that means a universal healthcare or single-payer system, we want to know that if something happens to us or the people that we care about, we're covered, and that we're not going to go broke over getting a procedure or getting medicine. We all deserve a decent level of healthcare. Healthcare is a human right in many nations. Why isn't it in America? You deserve better than that. The next issue is gun violence, and I've touched a little bit about that previously. There are more guns in America than there are people. We need to enforce and regulate guns more than we have in our past. And I'm not saying to get rid of guns. I'm saying that people need to be able to do background checks to acquire guns. And in a lot of places and in certain circumstances, you don't need to do background checks. We need to limit the amount of guns that a person can purchase in their lifetime. And we need to stop allowing automated weapons in our streets. As a nation, we all need to take a breath. We need to realize that how things are working isn't working. How we've done things in the past just aren't the solutions to our future. People shouldn't be allowed to go and buy automatic weapons, and they shouldn't be allowed to hoard and have a whole arsenal of weapons. And there needs to be more protections to protect children from guns. Gun safety is a big issue in this country. I think we've all are sick and tired of the gun deaths in America. We need to do something about it, and we need to do it now. The next issue is probably going to be the most controversial, as if some of the other things I've already said haven't been. But we need to really look at immigration reform in this country. But before we do, let's remember that we're 99.9% the same. There's only one race and only one species of human left, Homo sapiens sapiens. We're all related. We all came from Africa 200,000 years ago. Some of our ancestors went and colonized the rest of the world 60,000 years ago. We're all related. Why are we creating this belief that this person is different based off of their ethnicity or the color of their skin or their religion or their national origin or their sex or their gender preference or their sexual orientation? We're all related. We're all the same. If we can't accept each other, then we have no right as a nation to be here. Unless you were a Native American back in the early 17th century, your ancestors came from somewhere else looking for a better life. Most of our ancestors in America came from somewhere else. We have to remember that this was a country of opportunity, of freedom, of liberty, of democracy. That really is what the American dream is all about. A chance for a better life, not only for ourselves, but for our posterity. We have to be more open to the idea of immigrants. And especially now with climate change, if climate change gets worse, there's only going to be more people who are going to be displaced and need to move possibly to another country. There are entire countries in Polynesia, islands, that may not be around in another 50 or 100 years. Majority of the world's population lives on coasts that are going to flood, that are going to experience more tsunamis and more hurricanes, and more people are going to go and experience fires and wildfires, and we have to be more willing and more open as a society to others. And we have to be more cognizant of the plights of others. And we have to watch and see and read and hear more news to find out what's going on in the rest of the world. Because our news is very America-centric. I remember in high school we had to learn the capitals of the respective American states, but a majority of Americans can't even name 5 countries in Africa. How can we really understand people if we don't even know where they live and what kind of conditions they live in? And to that end, number 9 is foreign relations and geopolitics. The rest of the world is changing, as is America. Whether that's for better or for worse, a lot of that depends on us. We have to be more willing and able to be active on the world stage as a nation. That's why Joe Biden has done so many good things with the other nations of the world. Whereas Trump pushed us back into isolationism, we need to expand and grow and learn as a people, as a nation, and we need to talk with other countries. And we have to come up with solutions that works for everyone. Otherwise, it's just going to get worse for everyone. You've heard the saying, no man is an island. Well, no nation is an island either. Whether you look at supply chains, or weather, or immigration, what impacts one impacts everyone. And we need to be proactive on the world stage, and we need to go and take a leadership role and show the rest of the world that we care and that we're trying to make things better for everyone. If not us, who? If not now, when? And last but not least, education. Both the quality and access in this country. For decades, the Republican Party has tried to defund our education system, our public schools. I know a lot of people think that our public schools are bad and could improve, but one of the reasons why they might be bad is because they don't have enough money. Teachers have to go and purchase supplies for their classrooms. Some schools don't even have air conditioning. And if you've been in any of the states, most of us have, this past summer, you know that how can you learn when the temperature is 95 or 100 degrees in your classroom? We also have to look at things like vouchers. It only takes money away from our public schools. And we also have to look at things like property taxes. As many of you know, in most of America, schools are funded by property taxes, and it's creating an ever-increasing burden on people who do own homes. There needs to be a better way of funding education in America. So we need to go and invest more into our education system, and we need to pay our teachers more, and we also need to look at the curriculum of what they're learning. A reasonable person may tell you you shouldn't learn a particular topic, but only a fascist will tell you you're not able to. Limiting truth, limiting history, limiting facts goes against the very grain of what this country stands for. We're not Nazis. We shouldn't be burning books. We shouldn't be telling children that they can't learn a particular subject. And as a nation, we have to do more with our post-secondary education in this country. We need more colleges and universities. We need to fund them adequately. We need to make sure that our young people aren't going into debt to get a degree. And we need to make sure that there are enough jobs out there for them when they actually graduate. Keep in mind that the strategies that I talked about in this video are very broad strokes, and only policy wonks really understand and know the science behind some of these steps to mitigate these issues. They are complex, and they don't fit easily into slogans or memes. The things that matter most in the world aren't things that you can easily say in a sentence or a phrase. And I'm going to be honest and upfront with you. I know you know the truth. We all do. We all know these are issues. We all have to be willing to go and do something and step up and work on making this country a better place. Thank you very much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe.